Chapter 847. Hearing Muyan's shouts, an angry curse comes from beside her. So noisy, do you want to make me deaf? Muyan turns her head to take a look. She sees a beautiful woman sitting not far from her, but her hair is disheveled, her clothes are covered in dust, and there's a trace of panic and fear in her eyes. Where is this place? Muyan asks in a daze. Unfortunately, no one pays attention to her. Those young girls only care about crying. Muyan presses her aching and swollen temples, and her divine sense sinks into the space. She thinks she'll see Xiao Bao in the space, but she's disappointed. Looking at the empty space, Muyan's heart sinks a little. Chi Huang, get the hell out here. However, the space is still deathly silent, and there's not even the slightest response. Xiao Bao. Thinking that something might have happened to Xiao Bao, Muyan's eyes redden. Just then, a timid voice reaches her ear. Beautiful sister, don't worry, little brother is fine. Muyan's divine sense turns, and soon finds a red fireball lying in the space tower. It's Chocho, just that Chocho used to be in the fire phoenix form. Now, it's turned back into a ball. Chocho was touched by the god-slaying thunder tribulation a little, so it can't return to its phoenix form for a while. Boo-hoo-hoo, beautiful sister, don't dislike Chocho. Muyan promptly touches her with her mental power. Good Chocho, tell me, why are you here? Where's Xiao Bao? Chocho doesn't know where little brother is, but Chocho's fire phoenix doppelganger can sense that it's in a very, very comfortable place. Not only is little brother fine, but he's also getting stronger. Chocho is little brother's contracted beast. Little brother's power is pouring into Chocho, and Chocho will soon become a beautiful phoenix. Fireball excitedly twirls around as it speaks. The little phoenix's words were incoherent, but Muyan finally understood. When the god-slaying thunder tribulation finally fell, she and Xiao Bao don't know why, but powerful energy erupted from them. It miraculously allowed them to successfully cross the tribulation and ascend. Therefore, she's no longer in the Yenwu continent, but in the Xiuzhen continent. It was no wonder that when she operated her dantian and even when she breathed casually, she could feel the presence of spiritual energy. This was because this wasn't a desolate continent devoid of spiritual energy, but a paradise that cultivators yearned for even in their dreams, the cultivation continent. However, in the process of ascension, due to the time difference when passing through the spatial barrier, she and Xiao Bao were separated. At that time, little Phoenix just happened to be by Muyang's side. It was too late to return to Xiao Bao's body, so it could only send its fire phoenix clone to Xiao Bao's body. Beautiful sister, don't worry. Chocho knows very well whether little brother is good or not. It's just that little big bro is very far away from us right now. Chocho's cultivation base is not high enough, so he cannot sense little big bro's location. Muyang gently touches the ball, looking grateful. Chocho, you've already done very well. Thank you. If it wasn't for little Phoenix, she wouldn't know about Xiao Bao's safety and would probably go crazy from worry. Now, at least he knew that his darling was safe and sound. The only thing she had to do was to find her baby. Oh, pretty sister is praising Chocho. Hehe, I'm so happy. Chapter 848. The fiery ball spins around in the air, giggling foolishly. Muyang watches for a while, then withdraws her mental power from the space. Almost at the same time, she hears a woman's scream. Ah, where is this? Big sister, little sister, why are we locked up here? Boo-hoo-hoo, I'm scared, I don't want to stay here. Big sister, little sister, save me. Cry, 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 you only know how to cry. If you hadn't controlled your temper and clashed with others, would we have been plotted against? Would we have been locked up here? If we can't make it to the sect selection because of you, see if I don't peel off your skin. Muyang looks sideways and finds that the one speaking is the woman who just cursed her. The two unconscious girls lying beside her had woken up, which was why they were making such a ruckus. From their conversation, Muyang learns that these three girls are apprentice sisters. The big sister is called Wu Fangyi, the woman who just cursed Muyang. The crying one is the second sister, Chen Xiuxiu. And the youngest girl, who looks like a clear white lotus, is called Liu Ruoxuan. The three of them had a conflict with someone on the street. Chen Xiuxiu was unruly and headstrong, and couldn't bear the loss, so she taught someone a lesson. She didn't expect that they would turn around and be drugged. When they wake up again, they are already in this dilapidated house. Liu Ruoxuan gently comforts the collapsed Chen Xiuxiu. Second sister, don't cry, I believe that Big Brother and the others will definitely come to save us. But I don't want to stay here for even a moment. Why are we locked up here? Chen Xiuxiu cries, let me out. Let me out. I don't want to stay here. Boo-hoo-hoo. Don't cry, you're already in here and you still want to leave, stop dreaming. A haggard woman on the side can't help but say. Chen Xiuxiu glares at her, what is this place? Why did you catch us? The woman looks at her with pity, and after a long while, she slowly says, this is Heavenly Fragrance Building. What is Heavenly Fragrance Building? Chen Xiuxiu is just about to ask where Heavenly Fragrance Building is when she sees Wu Fangyi and Liu Ruoxuan's faces change. At this time, Chen Xiuxiu also remembers, and the expression on her face instantly turns into horror. Heavenly Fragrance Building, isn't that a brothel? Why did you lock us up here? Chen Xiuxiu rushed over and slammed on the door. Let me out. Let me out. I don't want to become a lowly prostitute. I want to leave this place. Someone, let me out. Woo woo woo. Mu Yang wrinkles her brows. She didn't expect that the moment she arrived at the cultivation continent, she would be caught and brought to a brothel. It was probably because she had passed out from the god-slaying thunder tribulation that someone had picked her up. Recalling the god-slaying thunder tribulation, Mu Yang hurriedly examined her body. Soon after, she was pleasantly surprised to find that her cultivation had actually broken through the Enidia realm. As early as when she was in the Yenwu continent, she already knew that the levels in the Shozhen continent are divided into forging body, Enidia, Jindan, nascent soul, astral projection, crossing tribulation. Every major realm was further divided into 9 minor realms, from the 1st to the 9th level. Currently, Muyan's cultivation is just at the 1st level of fasting. The strangest thing was that when ordinary people ascended, their sea of qi would disappear and turn into their dantian. But when she was in Yenwu continent, her dantian had already coexisted with her qi sea. Chapter 849. It's just that there's very little internal force on the Shozhen continent, so when she revolves her qi sea, she can only condense a little bit of internal force. But when she revolves her dantian, pure spiritual power surges into her meridians like a tide, making her feel so comfortable that she wants to sigh. It seems that this time, she really profited from a disaster. The god-slaying thunder tribulation has made her body and talent even more perfect. We're about to be defiled, and you can still laugh. Slut, are you born to like being played with by men? Looking at your foxy appearance, I know that you're that smelly, shameless whore. Muyan is immersed in the carefree feeling of spiritual power cleansing her meridians. Suddenly, she feels a swift and fierce attack coming towards her. She suddenly opens her eyes and sees Chen Xiuxiu ruthlessly kicking her. Muyan doesn't even think about it as she grabs her ankle and ruthlessly flings it. Ah! Chen Xiuxiu howls like a pig being butchered. She falls to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. She cries and points at Muyan, roaring, You actually dare to attack me. Muyan sneers, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. You can't control those feet of yours. Do you want me to chop them off for you and properly discipline them? Chen Xiuxiu's entire person is stunned from the fall. After a long while, she comes back to her senses and lets out a painful groan. Seeing this, Wu Fangyi and Liu Ruoxuan quickly rush over to help her up. Second sister, are you okay? Liu Ruoxuan's face is full of worry. Chen Xiuxiu slowly comes back to her senses and pushes Liu Ruoxuan away. She viciously pounces towards Muyan. What are you? You actually dare to hit me? Look at your foxy and shameless appearance. You're clearly the stuff that seduces men. Where did this aunt say anything wrong? This time, she revolves the spiritual power in her body ahead of time, and her hands are instantly covered with a layer of frost. However, when that fierce attack arrives in front of Muyan, she casually catches it. Then, Muyan raises her hands and ruthlessly slaps her face. The next moment, An ice-cold dagger is pressed against Chen Xiuxiu's neck. Mu Yang's beautiful peach blossom eyes were very close, but what rippled within them was not a bright and beautiful wave of light, but a bone-chilling killing intent. It seems that what you don't want is not your feet, but your head. Since that's the case, how about I cut it off for you right now? Chen Xiuxiu's body froze, and the anger on her face instantly turned into fear. His body trembled slightly, but he did not dare to move. You, don't mess around. I'm a disciple of the Bright Moon sect. If you kill me, my senior brother won't let you off. Liu Ruoxuan also quickly rushes over, bowing and apologizing to Mu Yang. Miss, I'm sorry. My senior sister has a bad temper, but she doesn't have any bad intentions. Please forgive her. Mu Yang slightly narrows her eyes, and with a casual fling, Chen Xiuxiu is directly thrown out. Liu Ruoxuan was pleasantly surprised and repeatedly thanked her. He couldn't help but glance at her, seemingly curious and probing. A timid expression appeared on her lotus-like face. Miss, may I know where you are from? How did you get caught by the people of the Heavenly Fragrance building? Mu Yang coldly glanced at her, but didn't pay attention to her. Without saying anything, she walked to a corner and continued her cultivation. Chapter 850. This time, Chen Xiuxiu is confused, the handprint on her face is even more swollen. Her eyes are filled with resentment, like she couldn't wait to dismember Muyin. But thinking of the strength that Muyin had just displayed, she doesn't dare to act rashly again. She can only cry and curse. Just then, the door to the room is suddenly pushed open. Several men with big, stocky waists and bare upper bodies walk in. The man in the lead has a knife scar on his face, and he holds a black whip in his hand. His cold and evil eyes sweep over everyone present. Soon after, a cackle is heard, accompanied by a sticky and disgusting sound. It seems that the quality of the goods that have been delivered this time is pretty good. Chen Xiuxiu couldn't help but rush over and shout, "Do you still have the law? I'm the daughter of an elder of the Bright Moon sect. If you dare to touch me, my father won't let you off. Let me out, quickly let me out." Seeing Chen Xiuxiu rush over, the corner of the knife-scarred man's mouth hooks up into a sneer. He suddenly raises the whip in his hand and ruthlessly lashes at Chen Xiuxiu. Chen Xiuxiu immediately screams and falls to the ground. She groans incessantly, unable to get up for a long time. The knife-scarred man's sinister gaze sweeps over everyone present. Is there anyone else who dares to make a ruckus? Everyone in the room goes silent out of fear. Just then, a manservant runs in from outside and says a few words in the knife-scarred man's ear. The knife-scarred man narrows his eyes and immediately looks at the girls in the room with ill intentions. That's great. I didn't expect that there would be customers who want goods just after you were delivered. Among you, is there anyone with a water spirit root, and the quality is 3rd grade or higher? The room is silent. The girls are in fear and trepidation, no one dares to speak. The knife-scarred man sneers, "Don't want to say? Then don't blame this uncle for being impolite." He swings the whip in his hand, and a delicate and pretty girl is caught. The knife-scarred man's hand ruthlessly grabs her dantian. The girl lets out a mournful scream, her whole body bending into a bow. The knife-scarred man disinterestedly curls his lips, tch, just a waist with a 5th grade spirit root. As he spoke, he waved his hand and tossed it to one of his subordinates beside him. He said nonchalantly, "It's yours. You can play with it however you want as long as you don't kill it and can still receive customers." The subordinate took the young girl and glanced at her delicate and pretty appearance. His face was filled with greed and excitement. He thanked the knife-scarred man and immediately dragged him into the small house. "No, let me go. Let me go. Woo woo woo. Slut." It was the sound of a slap. "You still want to maintain your innocence after entering the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant? I will take your virginity now, ha ha ha. This skin is really smooth and tender, much better than the last one. Ah! Help! Help!" The young girl's screams for mercy and the man's vulgar curses and panting seemed to fade away bit by bit. The faces of all the girls in the rundown house were deathly pale, and their bodies were shivering. Some of the more timid ones were already crying out loud. Even Chen Xiuxiu curled up into a ball, not daring to say another word. The knife-scarred man looks at their performance with satisfaction, and says with a sinister smile, "All right, now can you tell me, who has a third grade or higher water spirit root?" Chapter 851. If after the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, there is still no one with a third grade water spirit root to step out, then don't blame me for testing them one by one. At that time, those who are found to have poor spirit roots. The knife-scarred man did not finish his words, but looked meaningfully at his subordinate beside him. His subordinate immediately revealed a wretched smile, and even licked his lips, looking like he was eager to enjoy it. But the girls in the house were filled with despair, so scared that they were about to cry. The knife-scarred man laughed cruelly. Every time new goods came, he loved to play with these fresh and delicious girls like a cat catching mice. He would crush their dignity, conscience, desire, bit by bit. In the end, after their bodies were destroyed, they would become prostitutes in heavenly fragrance brothel who put on makeup and sold their bodies. One must know, the reason why heavenly fragrance brothel's business was so good these few years, other than having a powerful backing, the most important reason was that they could find good goods, and train these women to be obedient. The door of the house was closed again. The inside fell into a dead silence. Despair, fear, and hope, accompanied by crying, lingered in the air. Finally, someone could not help but break the silence. Who has a water spirit root? Come out yourself, okay? I don't want to be defiled, I already have a fiancé. If I am to be defiled by those beasts, I might as well die, sob sob sob. I also don't want to be defiled, I have an earth spirit root. Who has a water spirit root? Save us please. We don't want to all end up like that. Yes. 2 people being defiled is better than all of us being defiled, right? My father found out that I am missing, he will definitely come to save me, as long as we can survive these few days, all of us will be safe. Yes, my senior brother and master will definitely come to save me, I definitely do not want to become the lowest of prostitutes, sob sob sob. The voices of the girls in the house changed from the begging and fear at the beginning to full of hope. They all felt that as long as they survived this time, their loved ones would definitely come to save them. But the prerequisite was that they had to hand over 2 people with water spirit root to be the customers' cauldrons. Wei Zi, I know you have a water spirit root, right? Suddenly, a young girl's voice rang out, interrupting everyone's conversation. Everyone's gazes immediately followed the direction of the man's finger and landed on a girl. The girl's appearance could only be considered delicate and pretty. She was very young, looking to be only 15 or 16 years old. When everyone's gaze landed on her, her entire face instantly turned snow white. His body trembled like a sieve. No, I'm not. The quality of my water spirit root is not good. Senior Sister Yun Xiong, you clearly know my cultivation. The woman who had just spoken hurriedly interrupted her. Wei Zi, don't lie anymore. Even Master said that you are extraordinarily talented. Your water spirit root's quality is definitely above 3rd grade. Can you not be so selfish? As long as you sacrifice yourself, you can save all of us. Are you going to leave us to die? That's great. The other girls immediately beamed with joy. We finally found a water spirit root. No, I don't want to become a cauldron. Wei Zi cried out in fear. Seeing these women approaching, she screamed and tried to escape. Chapter 852. When the woman called Yun Xiong saw that Wei Zi was tied up and couldn't even bite her tongue to commit suicide, she rubbed Wei Zi's head and said with a face full of pity, Wei Zi, don't hate me. This is your fate. We are tying you up now because we don't want you to hurt yourself. Think about it, if you don't listen, all of us will die. Even if you become a prostitute, it's still better than death. Wei Zi looked at everyone with a face full of despair, but all she got in return was those people turning around mercilessly. Now that we have found a person with a water spirit root, but that person wants to, what do we do? Someone raised this question. Everyone's gaze swept across the surrounding people one by one. Suddenly, Yun Xiong's gaze landed on Chen Xiuxiu. Just now, I seemed to feel that she used her spirit energy, there was a water spirit energy fluctuation. Chen Xiuxiu's face immediately turned pale. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't even have a water spirit root. Whether you have a water spirit root or not, you'll know once you try. Yun Xiong sneered, my wind fire sect sacrificed a junior sister for everyone. Since your bright moon sect has a person with a water spirit root, do you want to selfishly stand by the side and watch? Do you want everyone to die with you? That's right. As long as you sacrifice yourself, you can save everyone. How can you be so selfish? You actually want everyone to die together. Chen Xiuxiu shook her head desperately. No, I don't have a water spirit root. You guys are talking nonsense. Nonsense. I don't want to be defiled. I don't want to become a prostitute. My senior brother is about to come and save me. I am the daughter of a bright moon sect elder. But how could these women let her go for their own safety? A group of people rushed up and wanted to tie her up like Wei Zi. Chen Xiuxiu was almost scared to the point of going crazy. She grabbed Wu Fangyi and Liu Ruoxuan's hands and hysterically shouted, I don't want to become a furnace. I don't want to be defiled. Senior sister, junior sister, save me. Sob sob sob. As long as you guys are willing to help me, I promise that after we get out, I will give the inner sect competition spot to you guys. Please save me. Sob 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 sob. Liu Ruoxuan's hand was tightly gripped by Chen Xiuxiu. Her nails were embedded into her flesh. The pain almost made her cry. She couldn't help but say, don't be like this, my senior sister. She is pure as ice and as clean as jade. How can you let her be defiled by others? How can you be so heartless? If she doesn't want to be defiled, do you want to be defiled? Do you want us to be defiled? Someone scolded her sarcastically. Why don't you replace her yourself? Liu Ruoxuan recalled the screams of the girl who was dragged away. Her body trembled and her face turned pale. She shook her head as if she was frightened. No, I don't have a water spirit root. Then what the hell are you talking about? After that, he dragged Chen Xiuxiu away and tied her up. Junior sister, save me. Help me. You're the kindest. You can't do this to me, junior sister. Liu Ruoxuan's face was full of panic and tears. At this time, she finally could not help but cry out, my senior sister is not the only one with a water spiritual root. That girl also has a pure water spiritual root aura. I beg you, can you let my senior sister go? Sob sob sob. In a split second, everyone's line of sight followed the direction of Liu Ruoxuan's finger and looked towards Muyan, who was sitting in the corner. Chapter 853. Therefore, no one even noticed her existence in the beginning. And when she was fighting with Chen Xiuxiu, her back was facing the other people except for Liu Ruoxuan and the other two, so these girls did not even see her face clearly. Even the knife-scarred man did not put the girl in his eyes. But now, when Liu Ruoxuan speaks and points, everyone's eyes are focused on Muyan's face. Immediately, several people sucked in a breath of cold air. It was only at this moment that these people realized that the young girl sitting in the corner possessed a devastatingly beautiful appearance. Her appearance was 100 times more beautiful than the bright and beautiful Chen Xiuxiu and the delicate and pitiful Liu Ruoxuan. Especially that pair of bottomless peach blossom eyes. The corners of his eyes seemed to be curved but not curved, and his gaze seemed to be cold but not cold. However, with just a slight movement, he could steal away a person's soul. After the amazement, several girls revealed looks of jealousy on their faces. There wasn't a girl who didn't desire a beautiful face. Therefore, when they saw someone prettier than them, they would naturally feel envious and even jealous. You also have the water spiritual root. Mu Yang slowly opens her eyes, not saying anything. She had just experienced the god-slaying lightning tribulation, and her internal organs, tendons, and veins were all injured. Although it was not fatal, it was still very uncomfortable. That was why she had been hiding in the corner and circulating her spiritual power to heal the injuries in her body. As a result, she didn't even pay attention to what was happening outside. Even when the knife-scarred man came in, she only vaguely checked on him. After confirming that he was not a threat to her, she no longer cared about him. But she didn't expect that she would become the target of public criticism when she opened her eyes again after she had mostly recovered from her injuries. Yes, She has the water spiritual root, I can testify. She has a water spirit root, if you want to catch her, then catch her. Chen Xiuxiu was afraid that everyone would grab her again. At this time, when she heard Liu Ruoxuan say that Mu Yang has a water spiritual root, it was as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. She immediately shouted, "Moreover, our junior sister apprentice is gifted, she can see through a person's cultivation and spiritual root attribute. If she said that this woman has a water spiritual root, then she definitely has a water spiritual root. Hurry up and tie her up so that we can be saved." Mu Yang's line of sight turns to look at Liu Ruoxuan meaningfully. This young girl seemed to have some ability. She was actually able to tell the attribute of her spirit root. In fact, Mu Yang's spirit root isn't the water spirit root, nor is it any of the 5-element spirit roots, nor is it a variant spirit root. Instead, it was the one and only moon spiritual root. However, according to Di Mingju's words, the moon spirit root is still one of the 5-element spirit roots in the beginning. As her cultivation increased, the number of spiritual roots in her body would increase. In the end, he even possessed a variant spiritual root and a chaotic spiritual root. Only when all the spirit roots fused together would it be the true moon spirit root. Now that her cultivation was too low, she only possessed one of the 5 elemental spiritual roots, which was the water spiritual root. However, logically speaking, ordinary people would not be able to tell the attribute of her spirit root from the circulation of her spirit power. He didn't expect Liu Ruoxuan to be able to sense it. Liu Ruoxuan comes into contact with Mu Yan's line of sight, and her whole body trembles. Chapter 854. Chen Xiuxiu immediately pulls her back and intimately hugs her hand, saying, "This kind of woman is selfish, she doesn't even have the spirit of self-sacrifice, what are you begging her for? Jin you didn't do anything wrong. Find the person with the water spiritual root, you saved all of our lives." Liu Ruoxuan is still crying, shaking her head and stammering to apologize, "I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it." The other girls are already too lazy to care about Liu Ruoxuan, and they all surround Mu Yan. "Do you really have the water spiritual root?" Yun Xiong asks aggressively. Mu Yan raises her brows, "So what if I do?" She has already used her divine sense to ask Qiu what just happened. At this time, she sees the little girl tied to the side with tears of despair on her face, and then looks at these seemingly righteous, but actually disgustingly selfish women. She can't help but smile mockingly. "Since you have the water spiritual root, why didn't you stand up just now? Didn't you hear us just ask who has the water spiritual root? That's right, how could you be so vicious? Selfishly hiding in the corner and not making a sound, did you want to see us all fall into miserable ends?" Mu Yan slowly stands up, arms crossed over her chest, and looks at them with a smile that isn't a smile. "What does it have to do with me if you all fall into miserable ends? Why should I make a sound?" How can you speak like that? Which sect are you from? Didn't your master teach you etiquette, justice, honor, and shame?" Mu Yan is about to laugh out loud. Etiquette, justice, honor, and shame? What kind of etiquette, justice, honor, and shame? Is it the etiquette, justice, honor, and shame of being greedy for life and afraid of death, pushing others to sacrifice themselves? These words are like poking all the girls' Achilles' heel at once. In fact, in the beginning, they also felt guilty and uneasy. However, when they tied up Wei Zi, they thought that as long as 2 people were sacrificed, they could exchange for their own lives. Their hearts hardened little by little, turning ugly. Especially when there are other people accompanying them when they do bad things. They slowly start to convince themselves that they are right, and even convince themselves that doing this is for the sake of morality and justice. This is also something that can't be helped. Wu Fangyi said loudly, "Now that we've fallen to such a state, we should help each other and look for an opportunity to escape. The two of you were just a little bit. It's not like you'll really die, but in exchange, all of us will be able to live. Wait for our senior brother to find us. He'll naturally rescue the 2 of you. At that time, the 2 of you won't suffer too much of a loss." "That's right, that's it." Wu Fangyi's words immediately made the others excited. "Looking at your ragged clothes, I can tell that your sect is not very powerful. If you are really trapped here, you can only be a lowly prostitute forever. But if we ignore it, our sect will naturally be able to rescue you as well. Between a moment of innocence and eternal depravity, don't you know what to choose? This time, Mu Yang really laughed out loud, so, I have to thank you. Before her laughter died away, her eyes suddenly darkened. It's said that shameless people are invincible. Today, I've finally seen this ugly face. Using the suffering and pain of others in exchange for his own safety. However, they still had to make it sound so dignified, and even wanted the victim to thank them. Chapter 855. Everyone's faces suddenly became extremely ugly. There was the resentment of having their thoughts exposed, and there was also the shame of trying to cover it up. Don't talk nonsense with her. Just tie her up and hand her over. Before he could finish, the door of the room was pushed open with a bang. The knife-scarred man and his underlings strode in. 15 minutes have passed. Have you chosen the person with the water spirit root? His chosen. Chen Xiuxiu immediately shouted, it's these two people. You quickly take them away. The knife-scarred man looked at Wei Yizi who was tied up. He narrowed his eyes, took a few steps forward, and lifted Wei Yizi up. Tears streamed down Wei Yizi's face. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't even speak. The knife-scarred man grabbed the position of her dantian and suddenly grabbed it, circulating his spiritual energy. Wei Yizi screamed and groaned in pain. The knife-scarred man laughed out loud, not bad, not bad. A third-grade water spiritual root is considered to be quite good. I'm sure that Lord will be satisfied. As he spoke, he threw Wei Yizi to one of his subordinates. He rolled his eyes. What about the other one? Following Chen Xiuxiu's finger, the knife-scarred man's line of sight falls on Mu Yang, and his pupils suddenly widen. His mouth slightly opened, and after a long while, he excitedly murmured, top quality, it's really top quality. If I offer this top quality to him, young Master Ning will definitely be satisfied. As he spoke, he walked towards Mu Yang. He reached out to check her dantian and spirit root. However, before his hand could touch Mu Yan's body, it was caught. The knife-scarred man raised his head and met a pair of bottomless black eyes. His mind suddenly shivered as he subconsciously sensed danger and took a step back. You. Mu Yang casually pats off the grass on her body and carelessly says, aren't you going to meet the guest? Let's go. Without waiting for the knife-scarred man to react, he walked straight to the door. She didn't look like someone who was going to be defiled as a cauldron, but someone who was going to be a queen. The knife-scarred man has trained so many women who have been forced into prostitution, but he has never seen one like Mu Yan. For a moment, he was dumbfounded. After a long while, he finally followed up with a serious expression. His gaze landed on Mu Yang without blinking, filled with vigilance. He was a veteran of hundreds of battles and had killed countless people, but the instant he met the young girl's eyes, an invisible fear surged into his heart. Boss, what's wrong? Seeing his serious expression, the subordinate couldn't help but approach and ask. There's something wrong with that woman. Have you ever seen a woman become a furnace so calm? Haha, maybe she knows that the person she needs to serve is young Master Ning and is eager to hook up with young Master Ning. You should know that even if it's just being a cultivation furnace, becoming young Master Ning's concubine is something that many people dream of. After listening to his subordinate's explanation, the knife-scarred man's heart calmed down. That's right, that was young Master Ning, the person that many people in Minute Lu Jie wanted to curry favor with. This kind of lowly woman, even if she was to be his cultivation furnace, he would probably be more than happy to have her. The knife-scarred man thinks of Mu Yang's stunning appearance and her water spiritual root. Young Master Ning would certainly be very satisfied. If young Master Ning was satisfied, then his own benefits would naturally not be lacking. Thinking to this point, the knife-scarred man no longer hesitated and laughed. Mu Yang and Wei Yizi were quickly taken to a room. There were many beautiful dresses arranged in the room. Chapter 856. The knife-scarred man has someone untie the ropes on Wei Yizi. His eyes wander back and forth between the two, Then he unhurriedly says, "If you know what's appropriate, then clean yourselves up and find some beautiful clothes to change into. After an hour, I'll come to pick you up to meet Ningxiao. If you have the ability to gain Ningxiao's favor, even if you're just a furnace, there will certainly be benefits for you. But if you dare to play tricks and make trouble for me, I'll have someone strip you naked, tie you up outside, and let all the men humiliate and trample on you. You'd better think clearly about whether you can bear the price of rebelling against our Tian Xionglu." Jie jie jie. The door is slammed shut, leaving only Mu Yang and Wei Yizi in the room. Wei Yizi couldn't bear it anymore, collapsing on the ground and wailing. Mu Yang, on the other hand, is very satisfied. She directly enters the wing room and happily uses the bath water prepared by Tian Xionglu to wash herself clean. Then, she finds some clothes that won't get in the way and puts them on. When she comes out, she finds that the little girl is still lying on the ground, crying so hard that she can't catch her breath. Mu Yang casually takes an apple from the coffee table and takes a bite. Then, she sits down in a languid manner. Her gaze falls on Wei Yizi, who is crying in sorrow and despair. "Little girl, haven't you cried enough?" Wei Yizi raises her head, revealing 2 eyes that are swollen like walnuts. Sobbing and sniffling, she says, "I don't want to become someone else's furnace, boo-hoo. I don't want to be defiled. I don't want to become a prostitute, boo-hoo, catcher, catcher, catcher." Wei Yizi is crying her heart out, but Mu Yang is happily nibbling on the apple. Her posture as she sits on the chair is weak and boneless, but there's an indescribable magnificence that captivates people's hearts and souls. Wei Yizi finally can't cry anymore. Her red and swollen eyes look at Mu Yang with confusion, and she asks in a small voice, "Sister, aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" We were caught to receive guests." Wei Yizi thinks of her own experience, and she can't help but burst into tears again. "We'll still become someone else's furnace." Mu Yang sneers, her face carrying a disdainful arrogance. "In this world, the person who can force me to do things that I don't want to do hasn't been born yet." After her rebirth, she had always been a person who would destroy everything indiscriminately. Even in the Shun musician trial space, when the Tianmo Qin wanted to control her, she would rather die than compromise. Even if Di Mingju was that strong in the beginning, he never thought of forcing her. In this world, who could force her to do something she did not want to do? Worst comes to worst, we'll all perish together. When Wei Yizi heard her bold words, she was dumbfounded. While he was shocked, he also felt a hint of envy. After a while, he murmured, But this is the famous Heavenly Fragrance restaurant of Minute Lu Domain." Hearing this, Mu Yang was a little interested. He casually threw the fruit core away and asked, "What is the background of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant? Why are you all so afraid when you hear about this Heavenly Fragrance restaurant?" The Heavenly Fragrance restaurant is the property of the Ning family. It was opened by the Ning family's eldest young master. The Ning family is the most powerful family in the Minute Lu domain. No sect or faction can contend with them. Chapter 857. Young Master Ning. Heavenly Fragrance Building. Muyin mutters, the corners of her mouth curling up into a cold arc, and her eyes are as dark as water. "You guys are out of luck." When she first arrived at the Shozhen continent, Muyin could be said to be clueless. Plus, Xiao Bao is missing, and Di Mingju is uncontactable, so she's in a bad mood. This young Master Ning actually bumps into her. He dares to make her, Muyin, a furnace? If she doesn't peel off a layer of this young Master Ning's skin, her name, Muyin, will be written upside down. Muyin still wants to get more information about the Shozhen continent from Wei Yizi's mouth, but the door is suddenly knocked open. The knife-scarred man and his men enter in a line. Seeing that Muyin has already tidied herself up, he shows a satisfied expression. Sure enough, this slut wants to take the initiative to seduce young Master Ning. But when he looks at Wei Yizi, he immediately frowns in dissatisfaction. "Slut, didn't I tell you to tidy yourself up? What are you doing? You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Come, take off this little slut's clothes for me." "Don't!" Wei Yizi screams, desperately hiding behind Muyin, her mouth begging incessantly, "I'm begging you to spare me, I'm willing to exchange. Woo-woo, the knife-scarred man's men are about to grab her, but Muyin stops them. She says unhurriedly, "Didn't she say she would exchange?" Still not getting out and waiting. "Who do you think you are, you slut, to dare talk to Lousy like that?" The knife-scarred man's men fly into a rage, slapping Muyin. However, before his hand could touch Muyin's body, he suddenly feels a huge force that flips him over. His whole body heavily hits the stone pillar, and his body twitches in pain. Muyin casually claps her hands, and looks at the knife-scarred man. "Didn't I say that we can't let young Master Ning wait for too long? Still not getting out? You slut, you dare to be so arrogant." The knife-scarred man grabs the man who was about to rush over, takes a deep look at Muyin, and turns to leave. Weizi was a little dumbfounded. She looked at Mu Yang, then looked at the knife-scarred man and the others who were leaving. She revealed an expression of admiration. "Sister, you're so amazing." Mu Yang grabs her collar and throws her directly into the water. "You stink, wash yourself clean." Sure enough, she still preferred those fragrant, pretty, and gossipy girls in the Netherflame Valley. Weizi was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. These people were captured and locked in a broken house. The house was full of dust and bugs, and the smell was terrible. On top of that, the girls were crying, throwing a tantrum, and being frightened. Naturally, none of them were clean. However, Weizi still felt extremely embarrassed to be despised by her beautiful sister. She even forgot about her current situation and hurriedly rubbed off the dirt on her body before putting on her clothes and walking out. Outside the house, the knife-scarred man held his waist and whispered in his ear, "Boss, this girl is too hot. Should we add something to her? To avoid accidentally injuring young Master Ning." Chapter 858. What's more, our young Master Ning doesn't like docile and obedient women, but likes spicy ones. I'm really afraid that this woman isn't spicy enough, and will grovel in front of young Master Ning. Things that are delivered to your doorstep are always worthless. Hearing this, the knife-scarred man's subordinates immediately understood and let out wretched laughter. They immediately remembered the chaste women that they had sent to young Master Ning several times. It was as if they were about to kill someone. After that, the scene in the room was even more bloody and tragic. But young Master Ning was very satisfied, and instead rewarded them with many good things. Just as they were imagining the scene of young Master Ning rewarding them with treasures, the door to the room was opened. Mu Yang swaggered out of the room. Weizi timidly followed behind her. The knife-scarred man's gaze swept over Mu Yang's exquisite and flawless face, his eyes once again revealing a touch of amazement. Then he turned around and led them to the east end of Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant. Soon, the group stopped in front of the door. "Young Master Ning, the furnace you wanted is here. Send it in." The door creaked open, and Mu Yang and Weizi were directly pushed in. The incense in the room was so strong that it was suffocating, with a faint hint of sweetness. Mu Yang looked up and saw two men sitting in the room. One of them was slightly plump, with a kind face, about 30 years old. At first glance, he looked like a simple and honest young man. But as long as one saw the evil and tyrannical flash in his eyes, they would know that this person was not a good person. The other man was skinny, with a wretched appearance. Although they were also sitting, they kept nodding and bowing to the slightly plump man, trying to please him in every way possible. When they saw Mu Yang and Weizi coming in, the two of them looked over. When he saw Mu Yang's face, the skinny man sucked in a breath of cold air, and almost blurted out, "There's actually such a stunner in this world." The amazement and greed in his eyes almost overflowed. But very quickly, the skinny man realized something, and immediately turned to the slightly plump man with a flattering smile. "Young Master Ning is really lucky. Such a stunning beauty was actually found by your subordinates." It turned out that this slightly plump man was the young master of the Ning family, Ning Yuqing. Ning Yuqing's gaze landed on Mu Yang, his face twitching uncontrollably. That gaze made Mu Yang extremely uncomfortable. This man's gaze was too presumptuous and sinister, as if he was using his gaze to strip off her naked clothes. "Tell this young master, what is your name?" Ning Yuqing asked in a rare moment of condescension. He originally thought that Muyin would be overwhelmed by the favor, or perhaps in fear and trepidation. Unexpectedly, Mu Yang casually walked in, found a chair, and sat down as if she was strolling in her own back garden. Her sitting posture was languid and wanton, but for some reason, her entire body exuded a luxurious aura. Then, she looked at Ning Yuqing and said nonchalantly, "Who the hell are you? Do you think you deserve to know my name?" Ning Yuqing's first reaction was not anger, but shock and disbelief. He was the young master of the Ning family and had played with countless women. Even the most chaste women would cry and beg for mercy when they were presented to him. They were terrified and desperate. Chapter 859. Impudent. The skinny man on the side couldn't sit still anymore. He roared angrily, "Do you know who this young Master Ning is? How dare you speak to young Master Ning like that? You slut, are you tired of living?" Saying that, the skinny man raised his hand, about to slap Muyin. Just as the skinny man approached Muyin, his hand about to fall on the young girl's fair, flawless face. Muyin slowly raised her head, a pair of deep peach blossom eyes met the skinny man's eyes. In a split second, the skinny man couldn't help but shiver, he stiffly froze in place. Those are clearly a pair of very beautiful eyes, but he seems to see an abyss of hell, a sea of white bones and blood. A drop of cold sweat rolled down his forehead, his hands and feet seemed to be frozen, unable to move. At this time, Ning Yuqing's voice came, "Enough, Tianlei, don't shout about killing, what if you scare the little beauty, come back." Fang Tianlei's body stiffened for a moment, in the end he didn't say anything, he took a few steps back and stood behind Ning Yuqing. Looking at Muyin, his eyes were full of seriousness and wariness. Ning Yuqing didn't notice anything wrong. He slightly narrowed his eyes, reaching out to touch Muyin's face. "Little beauty, your character is hot enough, this young master likes it. This young master is in a good mood today, why don't you follow this young master back to the Ning family? You don't need to receive guests in this heavenly fragrance brothel anymore. How about it?" Muyin slapped his hand away, her face full of disgust. She said, "You like it, it's a pity I don't. Who would like a stinky and disgusting pig?" Ning Yuqing's confident smile froze in an instant. The fat on his face trembled, then twisted into a sinister anger. "Slut, don't be so shameless." Saying that, he ruthlessly slapped her. Muyin suddenly felt a gust of wind, accompanied by a scorching heat wave, blowing towards her. She didn't even think about it, her feet tapped, the chair scraped the ground, making a squeaking sound, and flew far away. She barely dodged Ning Yuqing's attack. Ning Yuqing's face darkened when he saw that his attack had failed, but he didn't continue his attack. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a cruel smile. "Looks like you don't know how to be a furnace, or how to be a good pet of this young master. Tianlei, go teach her well. Let her see with her own eyes what the consequences of going against this young master are." When Fang Tianlei heard that, his gaze immediately fell on Wei Yizi. Then, he revealed a sinister smile, bowed to Ning Yuqing and said, "Young Master Ning, rest assured. Tianlei will definitely let this bitch know what's good for her. Defying young Master Ning will bring her a miserable end. Young Master Ning, just wait and see. In a while, this woman will obediently crawl in front of you and beg you to pamper her." Fang Tianlei was the bastard son of a small subsidiary family of the Ning family. Because he managed to curry favor with Ning Yuqing, his status skyrocketed. Today, he had come to the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant to enjoy the water spiritual root, which was a gift from Ning Yuqing. Ning Yuqing was one of the best of the Ning family's younger generation. At such a young age, he had already reached the 7th stage of fasting. In order to prepare for the Xiuzhen continent's grand event, the sect selection, the Ning family had been working hard to provide him with all kinds of cultivation resources, just so that he could reach the 8th stage of fasting as soon as possible. Chapter 860. In order to speed up his cultivation, he has been taking a lot of fire elixirs. But no matter how good the elixirs are, they all have side effects. Taking too many in a short period of time will cause damage to his meridians and dantian. In order to better absorb the fire elixirs, Ning Yuqing came up with a different method. It was to defile those talented female cultivators with water spiritual roots, using them as cultivation cauldrons to replenish yang energy. At the same time, the fire poison in his body will be transferred to these female cultivators. It was not hard to imagine how miserable the fate of these female cultivators with water spiritual roots who were defiled by Ningyuqing would be. In this period of time, the number of female cultivators that Ningyuqing has defiled can be said to be countless. The fire poison in his body is also almost completely removed. So this time, when he came to Heavenly Fragrance Brothel to choose female cultivators, he brought Fang Tianlei along. To put it nicely, he wanted to let him enjoy it together. But Ningyuqing did not expect that he would meet such a stunning beauty like Mu Yang, so much that he could not bear to waste her. When Wei Zi saw Fang Tianlei coming over, she was scared out of her wits. She wanted to run towards Mu Yang, but her knees gave way and she fell to the ground. "No, don't come over. Woo woo woo." No, Fang Tianlei did not care about her begging and crying. He rushed over and grabbed her clothes, and tore them. With a ripping sound, the outer clothes were torn, revealing the smooth skin underneath. Fang Tianlei swallowed, his eyes filled with violence and greed. Although he also wanted to taste that stunning beauty, it was obvious that eldest young Master Ning had his eyes on her. He could not eat meat, but drinking some soup was not bad. What's more, although this little girl looked young and immature, her skin was as smooth as ice, and as smooth as jade, making people drool. If he could leave green and purple marks on her skin, when Fang Tianlei thought of that scene, he felt his lower abdomen tighten, and with a roar, he threw Wei Zi to the ground. "No. Don't touch me. Save me, sister, save me." Fang Tianlei laughed sinisterly. "Haha, scream all you want, the louder you scream, the more fun I will have. Later, when you are under me, make sure to scream even more." Saying that, his evil claws reached for Wei Zi's underwear. Seeing that her clothes were about to be ripped off, her chastity would be lost. Wei Zi shed tears of despair. However, in the next moment, Fang Tianlei's blood-curdling scream suddenly rang in his ears. Then, Wei Zi felt her body lighten, and the demon that was pressing down on her disappeared. She was pulled up from the ground and a robe was gently draped over her shoulders. Wei Zi raised her head in a daze and looked at the beautiful girl standing beside her with teary eyes. Realizing that she was saved, Wei Zi could no longer hold it in and burst into tears. "What's the use of crying?" Mu Yang presses on the top of her head. Her tone is unkind, but her movements are very gentle. To deal with this kind of scum who is worse than pigs and dogs, you should directly cripple her. Fang Tianlei cuts a sorry figure as he climbs up from the ground. His chin is still aching from Mu Yan's kick. He glanced at Ningyuqing and saw that Ningyuqing was calmly watching from the side, as if he had no intention of interfering. His face instantly turned ferocious and he sneered, "Little whore, do you really think I can't beat you? Just now, I was just showing mercy to the fairer sex. Since you don't know what's good for you time and time again, don't blame me." Chapter 861. Fang Tianlei is startled, but he doesn't have time to react. There's a sudden flash in front of him, followed by a cracking sound in his ears, followed by an indescribable heart-tearing pain in his lower body. "Ah ah ah." Fang Tianlei screams, clutching his crotch and collapsing. The intense pain causes him to roll on the ground, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. You. He roars like a trapped beast, all the spiritual power in his body surging. He's going to give Mu Yang a fatal blow. However, without waiting for him to launch his attack, Mu Yang has already lifted her foot, casually stepping on Fang Tianlei's lower body. Crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking one after another makes Fang Tianlei's whole body seem to stop. His body keeps twitching, the hand that was originally covering his crotch hangs down, from the wrist down, including the bones of his fingers and palms, they're all shattered. Not to mention his descendant root, this time, it's really and truly become a waste. Fang Tianlei's eyes are wide open, his mouth is wide open, as if he wants to scream, but not a single sound comes out. Like a stranded fish on the verge of death, he can't even breathe. Mu Yang looks down at Fang Tianlei's frightened expression, slowly smiling. "Is it fun to trample on women? Is it fun to listen to women scream and beg for mercy? Fang Tianlei trembles, his throat making a cracking sound. Spare my life. Heh, since it's so fun, then go to hell and play with those female ghosts that died because of you. As soon as she says that, a long sword appears in Mu Yang's hand. The sword flashes, piercing Fang Tianlei's heart without hesitation. Fang Tianlei doesn't even have a chance to make a sound, his eyes roll back, and he dies. The room falls into a deathly silence. Wei Yizi even forgets to cry, her red and swollen eyes look at Mu Yang, then at the breathless Fang Tianlei, her mouth gaping, unable to make a sound. Clap clap clap. The room suddenly resounds with a rhythmic applause. Mu Yang turns to look, only to see that Ning Yuqing isn't angry, instead is applauding with an appreciative smile. But those squinting eyes reveal a greedy and evil light. He's actually at the 9th stage of the body-refining realm. No wonder he dares to be so arrogant. Ning Yuqing walked towards Mu Yang step by step, his eyes moving from her picturesque face, to her slender neck, to her curvaceous body. The lust in his eyes was overflowing. Very good, very good. This young master is getting more and more satisfied with you. As Ning Yuqing spoke, he made a grabbing motion in the air, and the wine on the table appeared in his hand. He smiles in a cultured and refined manner, handing the glass of wine to Mu Yang. This young master will give you another chance. Drink this glass of wine and obediently crawl over to serve this young master. This young master guarantees that even if you become a human cauldron, I will spare your life. Moreover, from now on, I will let you enjoy endless glory, splendor, and wealth. This cup of wine was the specialty of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. It had an aphrodisiac effect, which could make a chastity girl obedient. However, Ning Yuqing was usually unwilling to use it. This was because he enjoyed the sight of those women screaming miserably and begging for mercy under his abuse. However, seeing Muyan today, it makes all the blood in his body boil. Not only did this girl have a stunning appearance, but she was also extremely talented. Chapter 862. Ning Yuqing felt that if he had a taste of such a beauty, he would not be interested in those ordinary women anymore. It would be a pity if he accidentally spoiled her. A low laugh came out from Mu Yang's mouth. Following that, a pair of slender, smooth, and well-defined hands grasped the blue and white porcelain cup and took the wine cup. Ning Yuqing looked at the pair of beautiful eyes that looked like they were carved by the gods. He could not help but swallow his saliva, his chest felt like it was on fire. He could not wait to pounce on her and ravage her. But at the same time, he felt an indescribable satisfaction in his heart. As expected, no matter how ruthless this woman was, in front of him, young Master Ning, she would obediently listen to him. Mu Yang took the wine cup and twirled it in her hand, a bright smile appeared on her face. Young Master Ning, how many women have you given this wine to? Those ordinary women are not worthy of this young master's wine. Ning Yuqing showed a disdainful smile. Step by step he walked closer to Mu Yang. Towards other women, this young master would casually play with them and throw them away, or give them to those lowly servants or customers of Heavenly Fragrance brothel. But beauty, you are different. This young master cannot bear to hurt you, so I gave you this cup of wine. That is to say, you have defiled a lot of women. Heh. In this minute Lu Jie, as long as it is a woman this young master wants to play with, there is no woman I can't get. Mu Yang slowly raised her head, her gaze from the wine cup to Ning Yuqing's face. Looks like, from the beginning, I decided to take your dog lives. It was not a bad decision. Ning Yuqing was startled, he did not react. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and felt a sharp pain in his tongue and teeth. A huge wine cup, along with the mixed wine inside, was sent into his mouth. Then, Mu Yang raised her leg and kicked his lower abdomen. Ning Yuqing's entire body was sent flying, crashing heavily into a pillar. The violent impact caused the wine cup in his mouth to shatter, cutting his tongue and oral cavity. All of a sudden, Ning Yuqing let out a painful howl, and blood flowed out from his mouth and teeth. Outside the room, the knife-scarred man and his men heard the commotion inside. They could not help but be speechless. I did not expect this girl to be so ruthless. This commotion is even louder than that chaste woman who was played to death last time. Heh, The louder the commotion, the more suffering she will suffer. Young Master Ning loves to abuse these kinds of girls. Later when we go in, that woman might already be in a terrible state. Such a beauty, it is such a pity. Haha, who asked her to have such bad luck? Inside the room, Ning Yuqing crawled up from the ground with difficulty. This time, there was no smile on his face, only shock and malevolent resentment remained. You slut, how dare you attack this young master? As he spoke, blood continued to gush out of his mouth, causing his voice to become unclear. Ning Yuqing spat out the blood in his mouth and stared fixedly at Mu Yang. In the next moment, a powerful spiritual energy surged out from his body. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you really think that you can be arrogant in front of this young master just because you're at the 9th stage of body refining? He clenched his right hand into a fist and channeled his spiritual power. Immediately, a blazing flame appeared on his fist. This young master will let you know the consequences of resisting me. The air in the room seemed to be boiling hot in an instant. Chapter 863. The rolling waves of air have already rushed towards Muyan, blowing her clothes and hair up. Mu Yang's eyes narrow, she raises her hand, and a greyish-black zither appears in her hand. She plucks the strings lightly, and a melodious melody immediately comes out. Ning Yuqing sneers. What? Are you afraid now? You want to flirt with this young master and enjoy yourself? But it's too late. Mu Yang holds the zither with one hand, casually plucking the strings as if playing a peeper. Hearing this, she chuckles. Young Master Ning doesn't want to hear it. This young master wants to hear a slut like you crying and begging for mercy under me. As soon as his voice falls, Ning Yuqing's fist suddenly explodes. The turbulent airwaves cause the furniture in the room to crash to the ground. Wei Yizi, who is hiding in the corner, is almost blown away. She clings to a nearby pillar to stabilize herself. Even so, her hair and clothes still felt like they were being roasted by the flames. Her skin is burning, and she can't help but let out a low moan. Wei Yizi, who was just swept away by the airwaves, is already like this, not to mention Mu Yang, who was directly hit by the raging flame fist. Ning Yuqing slowly withdraws his fist, his face showing a proud and cruel expression. However, the scene in front of him makes him dumbfounded. The girl in front of him is still standing, her hands lightly plucking the strings of the zither. That expression, that posture, even that movement, there is not the slightest change. Languid, carefree, as if she doesn't care about anything. This is impossible. Ning Yuqing can't help but roar. Even his grandfather praised his raging flame fist to be powerful. Among the cultivators of the same cultivation level in Minute Lu Jie, which one of them is not prepared to face his raging flame fist with great difficulty? But this woman is only at the 9th stage of body refining. How could she so easily deal with it? Ning Yuqing's gaze suddenly falls on the zither. Following the sound of the zither, there is a faint white light emitting from the zither. It envelopes Mu Yang and the zither together. Divine hands weave, which could even barely block a blow from the god-slaying tribulation. How could it be unable to block a mere level 7 fasting, roaring flame fist? It was that ancient zither. There was something strange about that zither. Ning Yuqing's eyes lit up. His mind turns at lightning speed, pretending to be shocked and in disbelief to divert Muyan's attention. Just as Mu Yang was about to speak, he suddenly roared and pounced over, snatching the zither from Mu Yang's hands. Ha ha ha, little bitch, you can be so arrogant because of this zither of yours, right? Now that you don't have this zither, what are you going to do? Mu Yang is really surprised for a moment. Because Ning Yuqing's action just now was very fast, she didn't expect that Ning Yuqing would actually snatch the Tian Mo Qin, so she didn't have time to react. Ning Yuqing looked at the Tian Mo Qin in his hand. He had just witnessed how powerful the Tian Mo Qin was. If it could even block his raging flame fist, then it would be a rare treasure. It might even be a 4th-grade spirit artifact or above. In the cultivation continent, spiritual tools are divided into 9 grades. Above spirit artifacts were divine artifacts. However, in the cultivation continent, Divine artifacts were treasures that one could only dream of but not obtain. Above the divine artifacts were the heavenly divine artifacts, the divine king artifacts, the sacred ancestral artifacts, and even the heavenly divine artifacts. Chapter 864. Minute Lu Jie is the weakest region in the Shozhen continent. Here, third-grade and above spirit tools are priceless, enough to help a family move unhindered. So when he thinks that the zither in his hand might be a fourth-grade spirit tool, Ning Yuqing's eyes shine with greed. With a fourth-grade spirit tool, his chances of getting a good result in the sect selection will be even higher. However, when he tries to pluck the strings, he only hears an ear-piercing noise, nothing else. Ning Yuqing doesn't believe it, he even infuses his spiritual power into it. But a broken zither is a broken zither, there is no change, only that ear-piercing noise, as if mocking his stupidity. How is it? Have you played enough? Do you need me to teach you? He doesn't know when, but the girl's clear laughter comes close. Ning Yuqing is startled, and immediately becomes furious. What's so strange about this spirit tool? If you obediently tell me, this young master may spare your life. Mu Yang's mouth slowly curls up, a bright smile blooming on her snow-white face. You want to know? Then I'll show you now. As soon as she says that, Mu Yang crooks her finger. The zither in Ning Yuqing's arms moves up and down on its own, producing a melodious music. Along with the music, sharp air blades scatter in all directions. Zither sound blade, level 4 skill, activate. Ah! Ning Yuqing is so close, how can he avoid it? In a split second, he feels a sharp pain in his face, chest, and abdomen. The Tianmo Qin in his arms has already flown up to the sky, returning to Mu Yang's hand. Mu Yang has just received the Tianmo Qin when she hears Qi Huang's annoying voice. Even the most precious treasures in the Shoshen continent are not worthy to carry this sage's shoes. This idiot, he thinks that the Tianmo Qin is only a fourth-grade spirit tool, he should just die. Mu Yang's expression stiffens, she stops her attack on Ning Yuqing. Qi Huang, you're awake? Yes. This sage consumed his primordial spirit to activate, divine weaves the heavens, high-level defense, allowing you to escape the fatal blow of the god-slaying tribulation. Don't forget this sovereign's kindness. The youngster's voice carries an arrogance that's as it should be, and it's asking for a beating as it rings in Mu Yan's ears. Mu Yang, however, chuckles in a low voice, temporarily breaching the contract on the battlefield, and even releasing my Xiao Bao in a moment of life and death crisis. Qi Huang, you actually want me to not forget your kindness? In the space, Qi Huang raises his eyes and looks at the phantom formed by Mu Yang's spiritual form. Meeting that pair of smiling yet not smiling peach blossom eyes, he suddenly feels his scalp tighten, and he unconsciously takes a step back. Jun Muyan, I'm telling you, Ben Zun did that in order to save you. You better not act recklessly. Before Qi Huang could finish speaking, Muyan's hand has already stroked one of the strings. At the very end of the string, there's a sudden pluck. Ouch! Qi Huang screams miserably, and his primordial spirit tumbles to the ground, rolling around. Ha 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 ha. Jun Muyan, you bastard. Ha 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 ha. You actually dare to do this to me. Ha 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 ha. I won't let you go. Ha 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 ha. I won't let you off. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 865. The youth on the grass laughs until his clothes and hair are disheveled, beads of water seeping out of his flowing phoenix eyes. His whole person looks like he's just been ravaged, beautiful and alluring, making people feel pity for him. Muyan's hand finally stops plucking the strings, slowly moving in front of Qi Huang. Qi Huang's eyes are red, his whole person appearing delicate and pitiful. Seeing her approach, he glares at her with grief and indignation. Jun Muyan, you bastard, this hatred, Ben Zun will definitely take revenge. Muyan has a smile that isn't a smile, her fingers pressing on the end of the strings. Are you sure? Qi Huang instantly wilts. He shrinks his body, purses his lips, and angrily stops talking. Just then, the melodious sound of the zither rings out again. Qi Huang only feels a shiver run through his body. But this time, it's not a laughter that wants to take his life. Instead, an indescribable refreshment and strength circulates through his whole body, making him feel so comfortable that he almost sighs. The next moment, the girl's soft voice rings in his ears, but in any case, thank you this time, Qi Huang. Thank you for letting me live, and thank you for not letting me and Xiao Bao be separated by life and death. Qi Huang stares blankly. He jerks his head up, only to find that Muyan's figure is no longer in the space. He stretches out his hand and looks at his palm. The palm that was originally so transparent that it was almost invisible has solidified quite a bit at this time. His whole body is surging with a power that doesn't belong to him, but it's so warm, so gentle. Qi Huang blankly stares at his palm for a while. Suddenly, he flips over and throws himself on the grass. He rolls several times on the grass before burying his face in the ground. In a muffled voice, he says to himself, "Don't think that Ben Zun won't retaliate like this, humph." Muyan's divine sense leaves the space, and her 5 fingers play on the strings, her heart very satisfied. Although the Tianmo Qin hasn't been repaired or upgraded after going through the God-slaying calamity this time, the connection between her and the Tianmo Qin has deepened a bit. Now, she can already control Qi Huang's senses with the strings. She can also shield Qi Huang's senses during battle. In other words, even if Qi Huang's soul leaves the Tianmo Qin, he will no longer be affected by her stroking the strings. But if she wants to punish or help Qi Huang, she can achieve it through different spiritual power control and playing. The corner of Mu Yang's mouth hooks up into a wicked smile. "Little guy, let's see if you still dare to break the contract and act recklessly in the future." But as soon as he raised his head, the smile on his face disappeared. Because she discovered that in the instant that she was punishing Qi Huang, that grandson Ning Yuqing had actually escaped. The fact that Ning Yuqing had run away meant that he had alerted the entire Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. Sure enough, a moment later, she heard Ning Yuqing screaming like a pig being slaughtered, "Help! Help! Someone wants to kill this young master." Mu Yang sneered. Her figure flashed and appeared outside the door. "Trying to escape. Calling for help. Then this young lady will clean up this filthy Heavenly Fragrance restaurant in one go." The knife-scarred man and his subordinates were standing guard not far from the house. It wasn't that they didn't notice the commotion inside, as well as the scorching heat waves. But he just looks at each other and smiles wretchedly, his face filled with sympathy and pity for Muyan. It seemed that this hot chick did have some ability. She actually made young Master Ning use his raging flame fist. It's just a pity that her ice skin and jade bones have already been burnt by young Master Ning's raging flame fist. Young Master Ning really doesn't know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Chapter 866. He vaguely shouts, "Help! Help! That crazy woman wants to kill me. Quickly, quickly inform the guards of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant." When they see clearly who this blooded person is, the knife-scarred man and his men are completely dumbfounded. Young Ning, eldest young master? How could he be injured like this? The sound of movement comes from inside the room. Ning Yuqing is so scared that he pisses his pants. He frantically pushes away the knife-scarred man and his men to escape. Stop her for this young master. Arth, help. Before the knife-scarred man can react, he sees a slender and pretty figure slowly walking out of the room. She is holding an old zither in her hands. Her small picturesque face has a lazy and faint smile. She slowly walks over, the wind ruffling her clothes, like a fairy descending to the mortal world. The knife-scarred man and his men are simply dumbfounded. What is going on? What are you? Before the knife-scarred man can finish his words, Muyan's fingers are already plucking the zither strings. The airflow fluctuates, and an invisible blade breaks through the air. The knife-scarred man only feels a pain in his chest, his body swaying, and he has already softly fallen down. Muyan says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Just now, didn't you say that you want me to be obedient? What are you going to do to me if I'm not obedient? Who are you?" The knife-scarred man's men look at the dead body of their boss. Then they look at the girl's beautiful face, her bright smile, and there is no longer a trace of charming and gentle desire in their hearts, only full of fear. Do you know that this is the Ning family's property? The men's stammering voice is filled with infinite fear, unable to complete their story. Muyan can't listen anymore, her hands suddenly pluck the zither strings. This time, it's not just one or two swords that fly out, but hundreds and thousands. These scum who were just fiercely abusing and defiling young girls, at this moment, don't even have the chance to make a sound, as the sound blades penetrate them, turning them into a hornet's nest. Muyan turns her wrist, the Tianmo Qin that she was originally holding turns around, turning into 7 colored long swords, and then combine into one, becoming the crystal clear, 7 absolute swords, falling into her palm. The tip of her sword was pointed to the ground, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a faint smile. Step by step, she chased after Ning Yuqing. If the people of Hellflame Valley were here and saw Muyan's expression, they would know that everyone in Heavenly Fragrance House is going to be out of luck. However, who told them to be so blind as to bump into Mu Yang when she was in a bad mood? They deserved to be annihilated. In the house behind her, Wei Zi hid in the doorway, looking at the direction Mu Yang left in a daze, her eyes full of awe and worship. How could there be such a handsome and powerful woman in this world? If one day, she could be half as powerful as this little sister, how great would that be? The Heavenly Fragrant restaurant had been in business for several decades, but there had never been a day where it was in such a mess and in such a miserable state. The guests who had been intimate and having fun inside had long since been scared out of their wits and had disappeared without a trace. On the walkway outside the room, there were dead, injured, and dying bodies lying everywhere. These corpses were basically the Heavenly Fragrant restaurant's guards, pimps, and even Ning Yuqing's personal guards. The innocent prostitutes were frightened when they saw such a bloody massacre. Chapter 867. Ning Yuqing's body was covered in blood, his hair was a mess, and he was in a sorry state. He was protected by the guards of Heavenly Fragrance restaurant and his own guards, but there was not a shred of peace on his face, only fear. Trash. Trash. There were so many of them, but they couldn't even stop a woman. There were more than 100 people in Heavenly Fragrance restaurant, but they couldn't stop a mere girl. But when he thought of the terrifying zither in that woman's hands, all of Ning Yuqing's anger and hatred were replaced by fear. That madwoman, she doesn't want to live. Ning Yuqing gritted his teeth and cursed, "Is there still no news from the people we sent to inform the Ning family?" The guard next to him was about to answer, when a slender figure suddenly appeared from a corner not far away. The girl was wearing a lake blue long dress, her eyebrows were like snow, and her face was beautiful. When she slowly walked over, it was like a tranquil and beautiful ancient painting. However, none of the people present were shaken when they saw this painting. Instead, they were filled with terror. When Ning Yuqing saw the person, his legs uncontrollably trembled, extreme fear caused the fat on his face to tremble. "Slut, you don't go too far. I am the young master of the Ning family. If you kill me, the Ning family will not let you off." Ning Yuqing shouted fiercely, but in the end, he couldn't help but beg for mercy. If you are willing to let me go, I promise not to pursue the matter, and I will make the Ning family send compensation." The girl in front of him tilted her head, as if she was considering, send compensation? Ning Yuqing's heart was in his throat. I promise that the compensation will be to your satisfaction." Mu Yang slowly blooms into a smile. What a pity. Compared to an apology, I want more your life. As soon as she finished speaking, her figure suddenly disappeared. The next moment, the cold tip of the sword pointed straight at Ning Yuqing. The wind howled, killing intent filled the sky. "Ah!" Ning Yuqing screamed, desperately grabbing a guard beside him to block in front of him. The long sword pierced through the guard's flesh, killing him instantly. But the tip of the sword still cut through Ning Yuqing's clothes, and cut through his flesh. The bone-chilling cold seeped into his blood vessels, scaring him out of his wits. Mu Yang flew back to where she was standing and looked at Ning Yuqing, who was unharmed. She said regretfully, "He is still alive. Young Master Ning is really lucky." Ning Yuqing was trembling all over, and at this moment, he saw Wei Zi hiding in a corner. He immediately shouted excitedly, "Take that woman, quick, take that woman as a hostage." Wei Zi, the guard beside him shouted, "Wei Zi." Wei Zi screamed, screaming, "Wei Zi, Wei Zi." Wei Zi was shocked. The guard was moved, but Wei Zi was shocked. The long sword in his hand changes back into the Tianmo Qin in a flash. The sound of the zither resounds, and the blade of the sword flies. The guard was in midair and couldn't even dodge. In an instant, he was riddled with holes. Mu Yang leaps up, grabs Wei Zi's collar, and pulls her to her side. Wei Zi and Mu of Mu, use SS Qing, Mu of Yut. Mu Yang didn't care about her, and looked at Ning Yuqing coldly. Ning Yuqing almost fainted in fright when he saw her piercing glare. Chapter 868. This time, everyone's eyes were attracted. They saw a few girls in ragged clothes, trying to escape from the corridor behind Ning Yuqing. But one of them accidentally tripped and made a sound, which was noticed by Ning Yuqing. These people, coincidentally, were Liu Ruoxuan and the others who were locked up in the house with Mu Yang. The commotion in Heavenly Fragrance Brothel was so loud that even Liu Ruoxuan and the others who were locked up in the house heard it. In order to deal with Mu Yang, the people guarding them also left. So Liu Ruoxuan and the others secretly broke the door lock, wanting to escape. But they did not expect that they would be discovered by Ning Yuqing just as they were about to escape. And the one who accidentally tripped and made a sound was Chen Xiuxiu, the one who caused the most trouble. When the madam of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel next to Ning Yuqing saw this group of people, her originally panicked face turned into a look of joy. "Young Master Ning, these people were captured together with that demoness." Ning Yuqing's eyes lit up, and immediately waved his hand to get the group of people arrested. His face finally revealed a look of relief. This crazy woman would care about the life and death of that little girl. Naturally, she would not leave these women to die. And he only needed to delay until the Ning family arrived, then this crazy woman would be at his mercy. That powerful zither would naturally belong to him. Until now, Ning Yuqing still believed that the reason why Mu Yang was so powerful was because of the zither in her hands. But the secret of the zither must be dug out from this crazy woman's mouth. "Don't move." Ning Yuqing suddenly grabbed Chen Xiuxiu's neck and roared at Mu Yang, "If you move again, I will kill these women." Mu Yang's footsteps really stopped. But it was different from the anger and unwillingness that Ning Yuqing had imagined. The girl who was standing not far away just crossed her arms, looking at them with a smile that was not a smile. "If you want to kill them, just kill them. What does it have to do with me?" Ning Yuqing's face suddenly froze. She actually did not care about the life and death of these women. Chen Xiuxiu was so scared that her face turned pale, and she screamed, "How can you do this? Quickly save me, save me. I don't want to die." Ning Yuqing's guards also placed their weapons on the necks of the other women, and looked at Mu Yang threateningly. These women felt the pain and fear of the blades cutting through the skin on their necks. They were scared out of their wits. Liu Ruoxuan cried, "Miss, please save us. Are you really going to watch us die?" Mu Yan sneers, "Save you? Why? Do I know you? What do you mean? In any case, we were captured together and have gone through thick and thin together. How can you be so heartless and selfish and leave us in the lurch? Miss, we are in the same boat. Saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. I beg you to be kind. My parents and brothers are still waiting for me to go back." Sob, sob, sob. "I don't want to die. I'm only 17. Please spare me." The girls who were caught began to cry. Most of them were only in their teens or 20s. They looked young and pitiful, and their cries were even more pitiful. Even those stone-hearted guards would feel a bit of pity when they saw such a young girl crying. Of course, they wouldn't show any mercy when it was time to act. Chapter 869. Ning Yuqing shouted, "Miss, I don't know who you are, but I have offended you today. I, young Master Ning, have eyes but failed to see. I am willing to apologize to you. As long as you are willing to let bygones be bygones, I promise that I will personally escort you out of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel. From now on, the Ning family and Heavenly Fragrance Brothel will not pursue this matter. Saying that, he bowed very sincerely. Even if I have offended you, I did not do anything to you. Please be magnanimous and spare me and Heavenly Fragrance Brothel. Chen Xiuxiu and the others' eyes lit up at his words. If young Master Ning really could escort them out of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel and let bygones be bygones, then they wouldn't have to worry about being defiled and humiliated in the future. Chen Xiuxiu said agitatedly, Did you hear that? Young Master Ning has already apologized to you. Can't you be magnanimous and magnanimous? Muyan's mouth hooked up in a mocking smile. No. Today, I will take young Master Ning's life. If she hadn't seen Ning Yuqing's true face with her own eyes, she would have thought that there was only a small conflict between them. Ning Yuqing's face twisted. He was driven mad with anger. He had already lowered himself to this extent, but this woman still wouldn't let him go. Chen Xiuxiu and the others almost fainted from anger. Yun Xiong couldn't help but say agitatedly, How can you be so vicious? Do you really want to see us all die? We are in the same boat, we should help each other, but you are going to leave us in the lurch. Aren't you afraid of retribution in the future? Suddenly, her eyes fell on Wei Zi, who was not far away. Seeing Wei Zi hiding behind Mu Yang, she immediately became excited. Wei Zi, junior sister, quickly ask this woman to save us. We are both pitiful women who share the same fate. I'm also your senior sister. Are you going to watch me die? Wei Zi instinctively shrank back, but her usually obedient and timid face slowly showed intense anger. She took a few deep breaths, then suddenly shouted, You are too shameless. Back then, for the sake of your own survival, you sent me and this big sister out to be defiled by others. You have the face to say that you are in the same boat. What right do you have to ask big sister to save you? You are the most selfish and shameless. You want me to save you now, but when you tie me up and push me out to be violated by others, to be used as a cultivation vessel, have you ever thought about the fact that I'm your junior apprentice sister? I don't have a heartless senior sister like you. Even if you die today, you deserve it. You deserve it. None of you have the right to blame little Missy. Woo 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 woo. After Wei Zi finished shouting, she couldn't help but burst into tears. Her tears were heart-wrenching. It was as if all the fear, grievance, and despair he had suffered for so long had finally erupted at this moment. Mu Yang couldn't help but shake her head. This little girl was too good at crying. It was as if she was made of water. But Yun Xiong was scolded by Wei Zi's words until her face turned red to her ears, unable to say a word for a long time. The prostitutes of the Heavenly Fragrance building, who are watching the fight from the sidelines, originally thought that these girls were pitiful and that Muyan had a heart of stone. When they heard Wei Zi's complaint, all of them revealed expressions of indignation and sympathy. Chapter 870. You clearly pushed her out as a scapegoat, and now you still have the face to ask for help. Even if I'm a shameless whore, I wouldn't do such a disgusting thing. These righteous women look down on us prostitutes, but under their sanctimonious faces, they are actually dirtier than us. If this girl really can destroy Heavenly Fragrance Brothel, we can be saved. The words of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel's prostitutes reach Liu Ruoxuan's ears. Her pretty face flushes red. Her face is filled with guilt, panic, and grievance. Girl, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it at that time. I was just too afraid that senior sister would be hurt, so I blurted out that you have water spiritual roots. I'm sorry. If you want to hate someone, just hate me, okay? I beg you to save my senior sister, and these innocent people. That's right, girl, at that time we were sorry, but we only wanted to save ourselves. In a moment, we are willing to personally kowtow to you to apologize, and give you generous gifts. We only beg you to save us. Boo-hoo, big sister. I really know that I was wrong. I don't want to die. I beg you to save us. Liu Ruoxuan's words are lovely and touching, and full of sincerity. The others are even more heartbroken. They would be very pitiful. But Muyan sneers inwardly. What she hates the most in her life is being threatened, especially by moral coercion. Ning Yuqing sees that her face is as calm as water, and thinks that she has finally softened. He grins and says, "Girl, I think this matter should end here, let's write it off." He hasn't even finished the last word. What? Muyan's figure suddenly disappears. The next moment, Ning Yuqing feels a stream of water hitting his face, covering his head. Followed by a bone-chilling cold. Ning Yuqing quickly revolves the spiritual power in his body to resist. A flame erupts from his hand. Chen Xiuxiu, who is being choked by his throat, screams. But it's still a step too late. The water ball covering his head instantly turns into ice. Muyan's figure descends from the sky. The long sword in her hand lightly slashes at the frozen head. A crisp sound is heard. Ning Yuqing's head falls from his neck, rolling to the ground and smashing into pieces. Yes, his entire head was smashed into pieces. After a while, the ice crystals melted, and a sticky liquid spread on the ground. Ning Yuqing's headless body swayed, and finally fell to the ground with a thud. Arth! The girls who were caught screamed in terror. "You killed young Master Ning! You actually killed young Master Ning!" The guards of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant and the Ning family roared in anger. Some of them fled, while others attacked. Mu Yang doesn't care about the people who are running away. However, those who attacked her were all killed by her at the fastest speed. In just a few short breaths of time, the noisy Heavenly Fragrance restaurant turned silent. However, this silence was mixed with countless fresh blood, corpses, and terror. Mu Yang flips her wrist and the Seven Absolutes sword dissipates in the air. She couldn't be bothered to take another look at this damned place and turned around to leave. "Wait a minute." An angry voice called out to Mu Yang, who was about to leave. Mu Yang turns around and sees Liu Ruoxuan glaring at her, her small face flushed red. Chapter 871. Mu Yang looks down at Chen Xiuxiu. She sees that her throat and chin are burned, but it's not life-threatening. It's just that she can't speak for a while. Seeing Mu Yang looking at her, Chen Xiuxiu fiercely glares at her. Her eyes are filled with extreme resentment, as if she wants to tear her apart. Mu Yang sneers, "What does it have to do with me whether she dies or not?" How can you say that?" Liu Ruoxuan trembles with anger. "Even if we really let you down before, we've already apologized to you. Why are you still so heartless? Why can't you save us? What's more, young Master Ning only offended you, he didn't really do anything to you. He simply doesn't deserve to die. Why are you so aggressive, insisting on killing him? You're really too vicious." Liu Ruoxuan's words arouse the resentment of the other girls in a split second. Each and every one of them excitedly point at Mu Yang and curse. They scold her for being heartless and vicious, scold her for having no morality, scold her for not saving others, and some even scold her for being ungrateful. That's because after they escaped from Tian Xionglu, they planned to come back to save her and Wei Yizi. They have morality in their hearts, but Mu Yang watches them die without saving them. Mu Yang is simply amused by this group of shameless women. But she has always followed the principle of not speaking if she can beat them, and not letting them live if she can kill them. So, seeing these selfish women denouncing her after taking an inch, Mu Yang turns her wrist to take out the Tian Mo Qin. But before she can move, a woman suddenly rushes out from the corner, and shouts at Liu Ruoxuan and the others, "You sanctimonious people know nothing. You actually say that Ning Yuqing doesn't deserve to die. Have you ever been defiled by him? Have you ever had your dantian and meridians broken by him as a human furnace? Have you ever been thrown to a group of men to be humiliated, unable to live and unable to die? You don't know anything, you haven't experienced anything, and you actually have the nerve to say that he doesn't deserve to die. He doesn't deserve to die, and the ones who deserve to die are you." Then, 2, 3, 4, most of the prostitutes of Tian Xionglu rush out. Tian Xionglu's business has always been excellent, and the biggest reason is that the quality of the women here is particularly high. Not only did it refer to one's appearance and figure, but it also referred to one's talent, cultivation, upbringing, and manner of speaking. But who would be willing to be a prostitute who was loved by thousands and praised by tens of thousands of people if she was truly talented and cultured? Therefore, most of these women were pitiful people who had been forced into prostitution. There were even many who had resisted with all their might, only to end up with a fate worse than death. Day after day, they were locked up in the heavenly fragrant restaurant to receive customers. They were humiliated, spurned, and humiliated. He could no longer return to his previous life. He had long since despaired of the future and submitted to the heavenly fragrance pavilion. However, under the surface of submission, there was a deep hatred that seeped into his bones. Now, seeing Mu Yang killing the entire heavenly fragrant building and leaving corpses strewn all over the place, beating up that high and mighty scum young Master Ning until he pissed his pants in terror, and in the end, even dying without a complete corpse, their hearts were truly indescribably carefree. He felt that the grievances and hatred that he had suppressed in his heart for many years could finally be released at this moment. But at this time, Liu Ruoxuan and the others actually accused Mu Yang of being cruel, accusing Mu Yang of not killing young Master Ning. Chapter 872. So much so that before Mu Yang could make a move, all the prostitutes rushed out with righteous indignation. At first, it was just cursing. Liu Ruoxuan and the others blushed and were at a loss. But Yun Xiong and the others still wanted to refute, and some even scolded them in disgust, shameless prostitutes. You've been slept with, you're no longer clean, and you don't deserve to live in this world. Finally, these prostitutes were completely enraged, and madly pounced on them, pulling their hair, tearing their clothes, and slapping their faces. Although Liu Ruoxuan and the others had high cultivation, how could they be compared to these prostitutes in terms of numbers? Moreover, the anger and despair that these prostitutes had accumulated for so long had already turned into a raging fire at this moment. Even if they burned themselves and the other party together, they didn't care. How could a few weak women resist? Mu Yang looked at the scene in front of her, shook her head, and turned to leave without any reluctance. Other people's lives, no matter their ups and downs, were not something that she could bear or control. Wei Yizi looked at her back as she left, glanced at the fighting crowd, gritted her teeth, and trotted to catch up with Mu Yang. In the chaos of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel, the first to arrive was not the Ning family's reinforcements sent by Ning Yuqing, but Liu Ruoxuan's senior brother Pang Yunfei. What the hell is going on? Junior sister, how did you get so badly injured? Seeing the chaotic and bloody Heavenly Fragrance Brothel, and Liu Ruoxuan and the others with their faces full of injuries and clothes torn, Pang Feiyun's face was full of shock. He quickly took off his clothes and put them on Liu Ruoxuan. Junior sister, what happened? How did Heavenly Fragrance Brothel become like this? Liu Ruoxuan burst into tears and threw herself into Pang Feiyun's arms, sobbing as she recounted what had just happened. Pang Feiyun's face was full of heartache as he hugged Liu Ruoxuan and comforted her. Chen Xiuxiu, whose neck and chin were burned, watched this scene, her eyes full of jealousy and unwillingness. After that, she, who was used to being overbearing and willful, immediately stepped forward and pulled the two apart. She even took the opportunity to push Liu Ruoxuan and said to Pang Feiyun, "Senior brother, you must find that bitch for me and avenge me." Her throat was burned, and her voice was hoarse and unpleasant to hear. As he spoke, his wounds were affected, and his entire face became distorted and ugly. Pang Feiyun turned his head away in disgust and said coldly, "Don't mess around. If it weren't for your willfulness this time, Ruoxuan and the others wouldn't have fallen into such a dangerous situation and almost made us miss the sect selection. When you return this time, you better reflect on yourself. You absolutely cannot act recklessly in the future." No one is allowed to mention what happened today. If the Ning clan were to find out that they had something to do with young Master Ning's death, the entire Bright Moon sect would have to bear the consequences. After that, without looking at Chen Xiuxiu again, he turned around and hugged Liu Ruoxuan, comforting her in a soft voice. His expression was indescribably gentle. Seeing this, Chen Xiuxiu clenched her fists so tightly that the veins on the back of her hands bulged. Liu Ruoxuan snuggled in Pang Feiyun's arms and cried, "Senior brother, I really didn't mean it. At that time, I just wanted to save senior sister in a moment of desperation. Why won't that lady forgive me? Why did he have to be so cruel? Senior brother, did I do something wrong?" Chapter 873. That woman is so vicious and ruthless, her origin is unknown, and her cultivation is extremely high. Maybe she's a witch who practices some evil methods. You'd better not provoke her in the future. If you get hurt again, your senior brother will be distressed. Liu Ruoxuan nodded obediently and showed Pang Yunfei a timid smile like a little white flower. Pang Feiyun only felt that his whole heart was about to melt. Even if he had to go through fire and water for her, he would not hesitate. This little sister of his, although her cultivation was not the highest, her talent was not the highest, and even her appearance was not particularly beautiful. But there was a kind of pitiful, white lotus-like temperament that he couldn't help but want to take pity on. At the thought of that vicious woman leaving such a little sister to die, Pang Feiyun couldn't help but frown. If he had the chance to meet this woman, he must teach her a good lesson and avenge his little sister. After leaving the Heavenly Fragrance Building, Mu Yang stood among the mountains, not knowing where to go for a while. She sank her consciousness into the space and asked Little Phoenix, "Chocho, what kind of place is Xiaobao in? Can you describe it in more detail?" Little Phoenix tilted his head and flapped his wings, trying hard to sense. After a long while, he hesitantly said, It's a very comfortable place. There's a warm air circulating in little brother's body, and then little brother will quickly become powerful. Chocho also saw an exit, but there's a barrier there. If little brother wants to go out, he will be bounced back by the barrier. That's right. Chocho also smelled that there are a lot of fragrant spirit herbs in the cave. When little brother is hungry, he will eat red fruits. There are also broken swords and beautiful swords. Oh, there's also a painting hanging on the wall. But Chocho can't see what's painted. Little Phoenix stuttered and talked for a long time. Mu Yang only knew that Xiao Bao was safe now, and his cultivation was rapidly improving, but he was trapped and couldn't get out. But with these clues alone, she couldn't find Xiao Bao's location. A cave with a barrier, where could it be? It must be some broken sect's secret territory. Qi Huang's cold voice suddenly came. Mu Yang quickly asked, "Sect's secret territory?" On the lawn not far away, a youth in red was lying lazily. Her jet-black hair covered the ground like silk, and her long eyelashes were slightly lowered, covering her glass-like eyes. The light from the sky and space fell on the young man's jade-like skin and pink and bright red lips, making his face look even more like snow. His eyebrows were like a painting, but they also looked young and immature. Hearing Mu Yang's urgent question, the young man snorted and turned his head away, refusing to answer with a tsunder face. "Qi Huang." Mu Yang called out again. Qi Huang raised his long eyelashes and glared at her. His cheeks were a little puffed up, and he looked very childish. However, the words that came out of his mouth weren't polite at all. "Woman, you just offended me, and you still want me to tell you news? Dream on." Mu Yang takes a few steps forward and slaps the top of his head, messing up his silky smooth hair. "Stop messing around, quickly tell me, where is Xiaobao?" Qi Huang rolls away from Mu Yan's ravaging, his pillously handsome face flushing red. You woman, you're really shameless. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. You're not willing to copulate with Ben Zun, yet you actually dare to make a move on Ben Zun. Chapter 874. Mu Yan suddenly unhurriedly says with a malicious look on her face, "Qi Huang, you kept saying that you wanted to have intercourse with me and help me resolve the yin and yang sha. In fact, you don't even know what intercourse between a man and a woman is, right?" Qi Huang's face stiffens all of a sudden, and then he explodes like thunder. You're talking nonsense. This sage is a tool spirit that has lived for tens of thousands of years. How could I not know about intercourse between a man and a woman? Believe it or not, this sage will do you on the spot right now. He looks like a cat whose tail has been stepped on. looking indescribably cute. Muyan scoffs and laughs. All right, my pure tool spirit that has lived for tens of thousands of years, quickly tell me where that place is, okay? I'm really worried about Xiaobao. As she speaks, Muyan has already restrained all her smile, looking at Muyan with sincerity and pleading. The girl in front of him, when she's languid and casual, is already radiant. At this time, with rapt attention, those pair of peach blossom eyes are like a bottomless pool, capable of sucking in a person's soul. Being stared at by those eyes, Qi Huang's anger and arrogance completely disappear without a trace. He unconsciously opens his mouth. In this Xiozhan continent, there are a few broken sects that can be considered passable. They generally have their own secret realms, and in these secret realms, there will be forbidden areas that are shielded by a barrier, just like what Little Phoenix described. These kinds of forbidden areas usually store the sect's most supreme treasures. No one will open them for a long time, but it's also usually difficult for outsiders to enter. Muyan's brows slightly wrinkle. A sect's secret realm? But there are so many sects in this Xiozhan continent, how can she find them? As she ponders, Muyan's expression suddenly congeals, and she lightly shouts, "Who is it?" Her divine sense has already withdrawn from the space. Looking at the direction in which the girl has disappeared, Qi Huang stares blankly for a good while, before angrily pounding the ground with his fists. Bastard, he clearly wanted to grab hold of Muyan's weakness and have her apologize to him. Why did he just say everything that he knew just now? Little Phoenix sees Qi Huang's murderous aura lingering around him, and whines, hiding far away. Boo-hoo-hoo, Lord Qi Huang is so scary. Cho-Cho doesn't want to be alone with Lord Qi Huang. Little big brother, Fat Bunny, when will you come back? Cho-Cho missed you guys so much. Muyan opens her eyes, and her sharp gaze suddenly turns towards an ancient tree not far away. Still not coming out. A moment later, a slender figure came out from behind the tree. Seeing the person, Mu Yang frowned slightly. It's you? Why are you following me? The person who came was the only girl that Mu Yang had saved in the Heavenly Fragrance building, Wei Zi. Wei Zi shuffles her small steps and approaches Muyan little by little. She cautiously says, "Big sister benefactor, I want to follow you, serve you, and repay you for saving my life. Don't despise me, okay?" Mu Yang frowns even tighter. To tell the truth, she disliked this little girl who could cry very much from the bottom of her heart. The Heavenly Fragrance restaurant has already been destroyed. Why don't you return to your sect? Hearing Muyan's question, Wei Zi's tears fell again. Senior sister is the sect master's niece. I've offended senior sister, so I can't go back to the sect anymore. Chapter 875. Mu Yang originally wanted to refuse, but thinking that she really wasn't good at all kinds of trifles, and that she was completely clueless about this strange Xiozhan continent, she hesitated for a moment. "It's fine if you want to follow me for a while," Mu Yang said slowly, "but there's a condition, you're not allowed to cry in the future." Hearing this, Wei Zi knew that Mu Yang was willing to let her follow, and she immediately burst into a big smile. I know, I won't cry in the future." Although Wei Zi, this little girl's courage is only as big as a grain of rice, and she loves to cry. But because she naturally likes to listen to gossip, she can answer most of Mu Yang's questions. Through Wei Zi's answers, Mu Yang finally has a certain understanding of the entire Xiozhan continent. The Xiozhan continent is divided into 4 big realms: Minute Lu Jie, Qing Tian Jie, Kanglan Jie, and Ziyun Jie. Ziyun Jie has the highest status, and Minute Lu Jie is the lowest. And Mu Yang and the others are now in Minute Lu Jie. According to the little girl Wei Zi, the difference between Minute Lu Jie and Ziyun Jie is equivalent to a magnificent palace and a shabby thatched hut. Minute Lu Jie is the worst among the 4 realms in terms of spiritual energy purity, growth of spirit grass, and production of spiritual tools. But similarly, the higher the level of the realm, the stronger the law of the jungle, and the more serious the power struggle. Therefore, many people who are not talented enough, and whose cultivation is not high enough, will stay in Minute Lu Jie to hone themselves. If one day they feel that they have enough strength, Then they will go to the other 3 realms. Hearing the little girl compare Minute Lu Jie to a thatched hut, Mu Yang feels deeply speechless. On this land, she can feel spiritual power between her breaths. Using spells and Shun musician skills is no longer as constrained as it was in the Yenwu continent, fearing that her spiritual power would be exhausted in a short period of time. If such a place is called a thatched hut, then what is the Yenwu continent she used to live in? A pigsty. Do you know which sects have secret realms, or places that are very comfortable, can enhance strength, and are full of spirit grass? Mu Yang roughly describes the place that Chocho said. Wei Yizi frowns and says, Miss, places that are very comfortable, can enhance strength, and full of spirit grass, must have very rich and pure spiritual energy. Such places are generally only possible in some secret realms or the sect's cultivation tower. Mu Yang's eyes brighten. Tell me. Many sects usually recruit disciples with good innate spiritual roots. In order to nurture these disciples, they need a place for them to grow and train. Therefore, these sects built cultivation pagodas specifically for their inner court disciples to cultivate and improve their cultivation. The bigger sects, as well as those famous academies, have their own secret realms. The secret territory was several times better than the cultivation pagoda, and could cultivate the most powerful elites. Naturally, only the top of the sects can to the secret realms can too. Mu Yang's eyes lit up and she quickly asked, if I want to enter these cultivation towers or secret realms, what should I do? Wei Yizi was shocked and shook her head. That's impossible. There are no big sects in our Minute Lu boundary. The most tyrannical one is the Ning family. But even the Ning family doesn't have the qualifications to own the cultivation tower and the mystic realm. Chapter 876. Mu Yang wasn't dismayed when she heard this. She said faintly, Minute Lu Jie doesn't have it, but Azure Heaven Jie, Azure Blue Jie, one of them will have it. But if we, the people of Minute Lu Domain, go to the Azure Heaven Domain, we will be looked down upon and bullied badly. Wei Yizi said anxiously. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something and her eyes lit up. Oh right, miss, if you want to go to a big sect, there's a great opportunity right in front of you. I heard that the Azure Heaven World will hold a sect selection competition next month. In it, even the Li Fire sect will send people to select disciples. The Li Fire sect was the most prestigious sect in the Azure Heaven World. There were countless disciples in the sect, so there was a cultivation tower in the sect for the inner disciples to gain experience. They even have the right to open a secret realm with a few large sects in the Azure Blue realm. How do I participate in the sect selection tournament? Mu Yang interrupted Wei Yizi. It's at the Windless Plaza at the intersection of Minute Lu Domain and Blue Heaven Domain. Miss, I'll go to you. Wei Yizi said excitedly. With your talent, the Li Fire sect will definitely choose you. If you perform well, you might even be able to become an inner disciple. Mu Yang did not immediately arrive at the Windless Square. Instead, he was stopped in a small city less than a dozen kilometers away from Windless Square. This city was called Cyan Green City, and its meaning was very simple. It was where the Cyan Green Domain and the Blue Sky Domain intersected. To enter the Blue Heaven Realm from the common Green Domain, one had to obtain a travel permit from the city guard of the Turquoise City. Of course, there were naturally other ways to forcefully barge into the Blue Heaven Realm. However, those who entered the Blue Heaven Realm without a travel permit would be treated as unregistered residents. The practitioners of the Blue Heaven Realm could kill these unregistered residents at any time and place, but they did not have to bear any responsibility. On the contrary, if they obtained the travel permit, even if they were bullied in the Blue Heaven Realm, at least those cultivators would still have a sense of propriety and would not kill them. Miss, you can take a rest in this inn. Let me handle the travel permit. Wei Yizi confidently patted her chest and left. Mu Yang, on the other hand, began to stroll around Verdant City with great interest. This is the first time she has seen a town in the cultivation continent, and it is the first time she has seen so many people. Although the Heavenly Fragrance brothel had a constant stream of customers, it wasn't opened in the downtown area because it was involved in human trafficking. Mu Yang was a little surprised to see the magnificent scenery of the turquoise city. Compared to the Yenwu continent, the cities and towns of the Shozhen continent aren't too different. Similar streets, similar shops, and similar pedestrians. However, there was still a difference. For example, the streets are filled with spirit beasts that are used as mounts, but they haven't even seen one in the Yenwu continent before. For example, the things sold in the shops are no longer the same as in the Yenwu continent, where they are only ordinary herbs and weapons. Instead, they are all spirit herbs and spirit tools that contain spiritual energy. Mu Yang casually walks into a restaurant and orders some food that contains spiritual power. She didn't have many crystal stones on hand, and they were all looted from the heavenly fragrant restaurant, but it was more than enough to eat a meal of spirit food. However, the resources in Minute Lu domain were too scarce. Therefore, the spirit food sold in restaurants was usually expensive, scarce, and tasteless. Mu Yang casually tasted a few mouthfuls and stopped. At this moment, he heard the discussion of a few men. Chapter 877. Not only that, even the young master of the Ning family died tragically in the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. I heard that not even a complete skeleton was left. That can't be. Who has eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall, daring to touch the Ning family's head? Don't you know that the Ning family has the final say in this Minute Lu Jie? Are you lying to me? Who lied to you? Don't you know that the Ning family's kill order has been issued throughout the entire Minute Lu Jie? Claiming that as long as you provide clues about the murderer, the Ning family will reward you handsomely. The table fell into silence for a moment. After a long while, someone said, "Who is so powerful that they even dare to offend the Ning family? And they haven't been caught yet. Could it be someone from the Blue Heaven realm? Why would someone from the Blue Heaven realm come to our Minute Lu Jie? There's no need to lay hands on the Ning family. I heard that the Ning family pays tribute to the big sects of the Blue Heaven realm every year. The Ning family has laid out an inescapable net. I'm afraid that person won't be able to escape even if he has wings." Listening to everyone's discussion, Muyan chuckled, paid the bill and left. She didn't notice that on the second floor of the restaurant, there was a pair of eyes hiding in the shadows, staring at her departing back. Until Muyan completely disappeared, Chen Shosho's figure came out from behind the screen on the second floor. That slut is still alive. Are the Ning family's people all trash? It's been so long, yet they still haven't killed that slut. Chen Shosho looked at Pang Feiyun and gritted her teeth. "Senior brother, you must help me kill that slut. It's all because of her that I became like this." Although the burn wound on Chen Shosho's chin has healed, the scar hasn't disappeared. Her originally beautiful face has become ugly because of this scar. How could she not hate it? Pang Feiyun frowned. "In a few days, we will go to Windless Square to participate in the sect selection. It's best not to complicate matters at this time." "Senior brother, how can you be like this?" Chen Shosho shouted angrily. "You see, I was harmed by that slut like this, yet you don't want to avenge me. If it was Liu Ruoxuan who was burned today, wouldn't you have eagerly gone to avenge her?" Pang Feiyun's expression changed. He carefully and nervously looked at Liu Ruoxuan. Liu Ruoxuan was as timid as a little white flower, not knowing what to do. After a long while, he said, "Senior sister, it's not that senior brother doesn't want to help you, but the sect selection is really important to us. Senior sis, you also want to enter the Li Fire sect, right? Although I also think that the young lady did something wrong, it would not be worth it if she delayed the selection because of revenge." Chen Shosho said fiercely, "You want me to just let it go like this?" Liu Ruoxuan bit her lips. Although eldest young Master Ning was in the wrong first, but that girl actually killed eldest young Master Ning, not even leaving his corpse intact. That is too cruel and merciless. Why don't we tell the Ning family about this girl's whereabouts? The Ning family's patriarch has lost his son, and he can't find the murderer. It's really too pitiful. Pang Feiyun nodded repeatedly. Jin'er is right. As long as we tell the Ning family about her, they will naturally seek revenge on her. We don't even need to do anything. Chapter 878. Liu Ruoxuan shows a hesitant and unbearable expression, not speaking for a long time. Chen Xiuxiu anxiously says, "Didn't you see what that woman did to me? If I don't make her pay the price, how can I be satisfied?" Liu Ruoxuan takes a look at Chen Xiuxiu's injuries, and seems to have made up her mind. In fact, I saw that girl called Wei Zi with her, and they even agreed on a place to meet. Moreover, senior sister, you also know that my spiritual power is very special. Although I can't track that girl, I can track Wei Zi, but Wei Zi is innocent. If I report this to the Ning family, will Wei Zi also be implicated? Innocent my ass. That little slut is also not a good thing, she deserved to die. Chen Xiuxiu's eyes light up when she hears Liu Ruoxuan's words. Let's go, we'll go report to the Ning family now. Who knows? The Ning family might even give us great benefit. Liu Ruoxuan looks at Pang Yunfei in panic, her eyes brimming with tears. Senior brother, I don't want to harm innocent people. But senior sister is really pitiful. That girl, she really went too far. Don't cry. Pang Yunfei carefully and gently wipes away the tears on her face. Senior brother's heart is about to be broken by your tears. These things have nothing to do with you. Even if those two people were killed by the Ning family, they only have themselves to blame, it has nothing to do with you. Be good, don't cry, you won't be pretty if you cry again. Liu Ruoxuan smiles through her tears and keeps up with Chen Xiuxiu's pace. On the other side, Muyan is strolling on the street, waiting for the appointed time with Wei Zi. Soon, a bookstore appears in her line of sight. Muyan has heard the little girl Wei Zi mention it. In the Xiuzhen continent, most of the ancient books are recorded in jade slips. But because of the scarcity of resources in Minute Lu Jie, ordinary books are still the main ones. Usually, the food that the residents of Minute Lu Jie eat is also ordinary food without spiritual power, and not spiritual food cooked by spirit chefs. Muyan is very curious about what kind of books are sold in the bookstore of the Xiuzhen continent. She can't help but curiously walk in and randomly find a book in the corner. However, before she could read it, she was struck by lightning when she saw the title of the book. The words "Emperor, I'm pregnant with your child" were written on it. What the hell is going on? Mu Yang took another book, The 2 or 3 Things I Have to Say to Gongzi Yun Xiao. Those years when young Master Yun Xiao pursued me, abusing your majesty, you are addicted to spoiling me. The corners of Mu Yang's mouth twitches uncontrollably. She felt that there was a lack of oxygen in her brain. What were the brains of the people of the cultivation continent? No one knew who this young Master Yun Xiao was, to actually have an affair with so many female cultivators. Chapter 879. At this time, he's holding the book Those Years Yun Xiao Gongzi Pursued Me that Mu Yang had just read, laughing until he falls down. He keeps muttering, I really didn't expect that there's such a romantic affair, ha 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 ha, if I take it back and let my senior brothers see it, they'll definitely laugh themselves to death. Ha 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 ha, the laughter is so loud that even the shopkeeper comes over. The youth covers his mouth, showing a cute apologetic expression. The shopkeeper unconsciously becomes lenient towards such a crystal-clear youth. After instructing him not to disturb other people, he leaves. The youth covers his mouth, laughing until his whole body trembles as he continues to read. Mu Yang no longer pays attention to him, looking at the water spell cultivation in her hands. This kind of cultivation technique that could be put up for sale outside was naturally not worth much. The heart sutras and techniques described inside are all common in the Xiuzhen continent, everyone knows them. But for Mu Yang, it's a pleasant surprise. Her current spiritual root is the water spiritual root, and her body is also full of water spiritual power. But in fact, she still doesn't know much about how to use spiritual power and spells to fight. Usually, she would directly use the Tian Mo Qin to kill the other party. As the heart sutras and explanations in the book come into her mind, Mu Yang's empty hand unconsciously starts to condense a water ball in the air. Under the control of her mental power, the water ball constantly changes shape. At first, she can only enlarge and shrink, but later, she can even directly manipulate the water ball into the shape of an incomparably delicate animal. Amazing! An exclamation comes from the side, interrupting Mu Yang. She looks up and sees the cute youth who just fell down laughing, staring unblinkingly at the rabbit condensed from the water ball in her hand. The big eyes of Pi Ka are shining, and he can't help but reach out to poke the water rabbit. Apart from Xiao Shishu, I've never seen anyone who can manipulate water spiritual power like this. You're so amazing. Mu Yang smiles, and with a flip of her hand, the fat rabbit that she's transformed from water spiritual power disappears without a trace. She turns to the shopkeeper and says, "I want to buy this book." Leaving the bookstore, the sun is already in the west, and it's almost time for the appointment with Wei Yizi. Mu Yang is rushing to the appointed place. Suddenly, her footsteps stop, her face slightly congealing, and she turns into an alley. After a moment, a group of people hurriedly catch up, looking around. Where is she? I clearly saw this woman come in. If we can't catch this woman this time, we'll be in deep trouble. Just then, a melodious voice sounded from above the roof. Is there something you need from me? The few of them were startled. Just as he was about to raise his head to take a look, a strong gust of wind blew in his face. The next moment, they felt intense pain all over their bodies and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Countless small wounds appeared on their bodies, and blood only flowed out after a while. However, they didn't even know what had injured them. Easily disposing of these people, Muyan's expression doesn't relax in the slightest. Instead, her brows are tightly knitted. She quickly arrived at the place where she had agreed to meet Wei Yizi. However, as time passed, Wei Yizi still did not appear. A cold glint flashed across her eyes. It seemed that his whereabouts had finally been targeted by the Ning clan. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.